Any other questions from members of the committee for the first time? If not, Representative Holder-Winfield.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to ask another set of questions. I'm a little concerned about what I'm hearing here, because we keep going to actual innocence, and I'm not an attorney, but my understanding is that habeas is not simply about actual innocence. And so maybe the reason why we're thinking of some of these things as frivolous is because we're looking at habeas itself in the wrong manner. So if you could enlighten me, because my understanding of habeas has to do with also the authority to detain someone, and that doesn't depend solely upon the fact that someone can establish that they are actually innocent.
Exactly.
So then why is it that you're putting this forward, but you keep going to actual innocence?
Actual innocence are the most dramatic example of a wrong that has occurred that has to be addressed. That's by far the most dramatic example and the most fundamental example. There are other issues that habeas can address and should address, and that this permits it to be done, like deprivation of due process of law, certain constitutional, not certain, but constitutional violations which go to the legitimacy of the proceeding that had occurred. Not rulings of evidence, not evidentiary rulings, not tactical decisions, not things like that. This bill would permit that, and it's not, the idea is not to close a window to every claim except a claim of actual innocence.
Okay, and just about you keep citing that there are these frivolous habeas petitions. I don't know if it was in your testimony from last year, but I would like to, if you could provide or tell me where to look for statistics on that. And by that, I don't just mean how many there are, but the denial of which, why they were denied, and what. I would like to know why they were denied, because I'm not sure that, as I said earlier, you can deny the petition, but I don't know that that actually makes it in a beyond a legal sense, in a real sense, frivolous. So I would like to get a better sense of what we're actually talking about here, because the other attorney Howe actually talked about there may be people who've come forward or who we found out to have perjured themselves, but that doesn't actually do much to allow for the eventual release or exoneration or overturning of a conviction, and but it may actually speak to the possibility that that person is one innocent, may have had some issues with the case, and I think those things will be lumped in with these frivolous attempts, and I don't see that as frivolous. So I'd like to know better exactly what the statistics are, if you could help me with that.
We can, and certainly any claim that's denied doesn't mean the claim is frivolous. There are legitimate claims that are made, there are trials that occur, the trial judge makes findings of fact and maybe disagrees with the claim and denies the claim. That doesn't mean that that claim is frivolous or meritless. In fact, it may well be, and a lot of those claims should be tried. That's one of the concerns, is that there are claims that ought to be tried that are lost in this pile of claims that shouldn't. We did attach examples to last year's testimony, if you look at that in the addendums, of the types of cases which really, I think anybody who would look at just the descriptions there, you could see those are examples of meritless claims, and there are a lot of those. And we have numbers. The courts can't be expected to say this petition was frivolous. Well, sometimes it's dismissed right up front as being frivolous. Our tendency and our culture in this state, both publicly, here in the legislature, us even as prosecutors and judges, have been allowed to allow a hearing. To say, this may be meritless, but I'll allow a hearing and I can always deny it later on.
Attorney Kane, not to cut you off, but you earlier talked about I think a total of 600 and then 594 which were dismissed. And in your manner of speaking, you actually talked about those as being frivolous. And so my question is, the types of examples you provided, does that run the course through all 594? I would assume not, but the way you spoke about it indicates that it does. And so I would like to see, because I have to look at this bill and read JF these bills, and I have to make a determination whether I agree with you or not. And I would be better equipped to make that decision, if not just sitting here hearing you talk about it, saying that these are frivolous cases when I know that not 594 of them are frivolous. If I had information to help me make a real determination about what number of them are really frivolous, and if what you're saying may not actually line up exactly, but maybe it lines up close enough that you are right, or maybe it lines up so far apart from what you're saying that you're not right, and I would make a different decision. It would just help me as a legislator to make a better decision. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.